So, right away for the cross, I see 3 edges are in place. The blue one will have to get misplaced there. So, I would do my cross like this. Right away I see these edges here. So, I'm going to pair them up and insert them like that. And then I see this set of edges here. So, we're going to insert them like that. Next thing I see is these edges here. So that would be like that, and then that last pair is already paired up. So we're just going to sledgehammer it in there. Last layer edges is that case, and then we'll do those corners with that case. Permute our corners, and it's a simple U-perm to solve that last layer.
Alrighty, so I already have part of my orange in there. I'm gonna fit the green next to it. The red's already in place on that axis, so slide the blue over so that I can put that up right away. Now I gotta start putting in the corners. Got red and green in there. Green and orange. Ooh, mess that up. Blue and orange, and then blue and red. And then I gotta throw blue and red side piece in there. Orange and green. Red and green. And then my last one is blue and orange. We got the L on the top, so turn it into a cross. And then cross plus 1. And then all 6. And I've got to do a few U primes here. And one more U prime. Alright.
So this one seems like it's a little bit trickier here. So right away, I think I would solve the cross like this. And then I see these edges here. So actually these edges might be a little easier here. And then we can go for the orange and the blue. That gives us these two here that we can pair up and insert. And then the last pair we'll insert like that. Orient the edges. Orient the corners. Permuting our corners, and then a simple U-curve again to solve the last layer.
Alrighty, so see this one, I don't quite have as much on the top as I'd like. I've got to move the stuff on the top around before it'll even come in handy. So put the green piece in and flip the orange in. Now we have blue and red. Now we got to start inserting corners. I've got blue and red in there, red and green, green and orange, and then the last one is blue and orange. Now I start inserting the side pieces. Pretty simple. They're all right on top where I'd like them. I don't have to push any of them out of their spot there. Now I have my L, and then the cross, and then the cross plus 1, so it's all 6. You gotta do a U-perm there, and then simply finish off.
So the first thing I see here are these two edges, so I'm going to solve the cross like that. That doesn't really give us anything except for the blue-orange pair, so I'm going to pair that up and insert that. Next thing I see is the green-orange pair because that's right there in the top layer, and then I see blue and red, so we'll do it that way. And then we'll insert our last pair like that, orient our last layer edges, orient our corners, orient the corners, and once again it's just a U-turn to finish off.
Alrighty, so this one's not as simple as the rest, but it's just a little bit more movement to place the sides. Got my cross plus 1 on the top, the plus 1 I've got to move. I'm going to put in blue and red, and then I'm going to place green and orange. I've got a fine red and green, there it is. Simple. Blue and red piece, green and red piece. I'm going to try and get that one so that it's out, and then position it there. I've got the straight line so that I have to go to L, and then go to the cross, and then cross plus 1. It's all 6. Now I've got to do the U prime. U-term. And done.
So this cross seems to be a little bit trickier because there's already some bad edges in there. So I think I would solve it like this. And right away I see that pair that we'll just go ahead and insert right away. And then the next pair I see is that one. And then orange blue comes in straight away. And then our last pair, orienting the edges and orienting the corners. Completely botching the corners perhaps. And then another U-turn for the last layer.
Alrighty, so this one, I've got more on the top, which is good, because then I'll just have to reorient that green and slide the orange in. Slide the red in, now I've got my cross plus one. I have to reorient that one, but it's nice that it was on top. I have to place blue and red, and then place blue and orange, and then green and red, and I've got all 6 on top. Put in orange and green, and red and blue. This piece is kind of trapped in there until I push it out with blue and orange, and now I just need to reinsert green and red in the right spot. I've got my straight line, so I have to go to an L, and then the L goes to the cross plus one, and cross plus one to all 6. Now I've got a U-turn. And then I'm done.
This cross isn't actually too bad. I see a couple of our edges are opposite what we need them to be, but we can undo that later. So I would do the cross like this, and then I don't really see any pairs kind of in the top layer other than this one. So we'll insert that, and then I see that paired up the other red pair. And right away I see this one. And then our last orange-green we'll insert like that. We'll orient the edges, orient the corners, create our corners, and this time we get a Z-perm, and I just did a triple U prime again.
Alrighty. I see here that I don't have anything helpful on the top, because that blue and orange is going to have to get moved anyways. So I've got blue on the top, orange on the top, red on the top, and then now I've got green on the top, and I've got to orient the edges. So now I have blue and orange, and blue and red, and green and red, and green and orange. I place the side pieces in there. So blue and orange is going to go here to move out the blue and red, and I'm going to place the blue and red there. The last one is green and red. I've got my L on the top, so I'm going to turn that into a cross plus 2. Now I have cross plus 1, and cross plus 1 again, and now I have all 6. And I'm going to get to having 2 greens on that side. Now I've got to do a 2 U perm. Should do an H perm too, but I haven't learned that one yet, so. And I'm done.